question that I'd love to get your answer to. And the question is whether or not Nick Cannon has been buck broken. Tariq Nasheed actually has a movie coming out called Buckbreaking. And a lot of people feel that these are the terms that, or this is the term that's more appropriate to describe what's happened to Nick. Nick has been publicly flogged. Nick Cannon has been humiliated. Nick Cannon has been broken down. Nick Cannon has apologized more times than necessary. It's one thing if they ask you to apologize once or twice, and it's another thing if you apologize 5, 6, 7, 8 times. We're going to break this down and talk about this in an honest way, not in a way that's going to be nasty or mean toward Nick, but in a way that's going to be honest about our community and Black history. I think this is an appropriate time, a wonderful time, Black History Month, to talk about buck breaking and the history of it and how the humiliated Black man has always been a wonderful tool for white supremacy. So hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Now, let's talk about Nick Cannon. And Nick Cannon's very, very interesting, almost borderline peculiar behavior as of late. As a result of some of the controversy that Nick has experienced, Nick has flip-flopped more than Alicia's pancakes, and he's been kind of going back and forth and saying things that don't make a lot of sense to me. And I'm gonna tell you what, I'm not gonna say this for sure, but I kind of wonder if Nick is a little bit afraid. If somebody has told Nick Cannon, be afraid, be very afraid, and you better always act afraid, or we're gonna make you afraid. So let's start from the beginning. And I want to start also by just saying that my goal is not to disparage Nick Cannon. I think Nick is a good guy. It seems like Nick is trying to do the right thing. I don't know him personally. I've never met Nick Cannon, but he's trying. He's trying. And one of the things that's interesting in terms of my observation of Nick as of late, and what drove me to have this conversation, is that I've seen an evolution in not just Nick's rhetoric, but also in the results of his rhetoric. If you saw this week, and I'm going to pull the headline here, this is from USA Today, and I'm going to share the headline with you guys on the screen. Nick, after many what appeared to be public apologies and reconciliations with a certain community that shall remain nameless because they like to ban people's YouTube channels and stuff, so I'm not going to say it. So much for freedom of speech. Nick was recently rewarded with his show Wildin' Out. They gave him his show back. So Nick is going to have a show again. He's going to get to go tell more jokes and be funny. And he had to kind of work his way back into the favor of the powers that be, who shall remain nameless because they like to ban people's YouTube channels. Because if you just even mention the fact that they have power, they ban you because you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to pretend like the powerful people have no power. So they show you how powerless they are by banning your YouTube channel and basically hanging Negroes out to dry. So I'm not gonna say anybody's names, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. So back to Nick Cannon. So here's one of the things I've observed about Nick. If you go back and you remember the very beginning, Nick got pretty radical. It reminds me of that saying that some people use where they say everybody want to be black until it's time to be black. Everybody want to be black until it's time to be black. Everybody want to be a soldier till it's time to go to war. And so Nick does this interview with a pretty strong brother by the name of Professor Griff. And I'm gonna tell you, Professor Griff is not the guy you have a conversation with unless you're ready to really have a conversation. He does not play games. He's not there to say things that are going to make a white supremacist comfortable. He's not there to try to fit in. Griff is Griff. Griff is a guy that is pretty direct in his language, and so Nick decides to interview Professor Griff. And I remember when I saw that Nick was interviewing Professor Griff, I kind of thought, that's interesting. That's a surprise. I didn't expect to see that. And so Nick is interviewing Professor Griff on his show called Cannon's Class, and they have a really great conversation. Two smart black men just chopping it up, and I thought that was great. I love that. I love to see intelligent black people getting together. And apparently Griff said some things that I guess Nick co-signed on that did not make the powers that be very happy in Hollywood. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't surprised at all, because there's almost no way that the truth of blackness can be in the same room with white supremacy without there being a conflict. There's no way that you can actually tell the actual truth about racism and racial history in America and not expect people to get angry and upset. Years ago, I gave a speech. I was invited by, sometimes this is what used to happen back when I used to give speeches. I really don't like to give speeches anymore. So don't invite me to be your campus speaker, because I ain't gonna do nothing but get you fired, because I'm gonna tell those white people the truth. And so don't do it. Please don't invite me to your company's Black History Month event. I'm just gonna mess it up. And I ain't out here trying to get black people fired. I can't speak slave talk no more. I'm not fit for slavery, so I don't want to get you in trouble. So don't call Dr. Boyce. Just check me out on the internet. I go to drboycetv.com. That's all you need. We can meet underground. I do not want to be your Black History Month speaker, at your corporate function, because I will get you fired. So please don't do that. So I spoke for these bankers, and I guess they, and I was invited in as part of their diversity initiative. That's the time where they pretend like they actually like black people, even though most companies will have diversity statements, and they really don't. They don't really believe none of that stuff. They just put it on paper because it sounds good. So the black employees who had checked me out, a couple of them saw me online, and they said, "Yeah, this professor would be great to bring in." Now I know finance. I know it like the back of my hand. I know more about finance than 99.9% of all financial experts. I've trained financial experts who've gone to Wall Street and made millions of dollars. So I know what I'm talking about. So I get up there, right? And I'm giving the speech, and they asked me to talk about racial economic injustice or something like that. Something about the racial history of economics or whatever it was. So I give this speech, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, boys, don't get nobody fired today. Come on, you got to calm down. Don't put on your big boy pants. Just kind of keep it cool. You ain't got to go upside the head with a sledgehammer. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be cool. I don't want to get nobody fired. So I get up there. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. And I literally gave the most polite, humble, non-accusatory speech I could come up with about reparations and why black people have had our wealth stolen for hundreds of years, why black people have been cut out of every major economic policy in American history, why black people have gone through something that nobody else in this country has ever gone through, and why we might be owed a little bit of money for that. And I didn't even say it in a mean way. I didn't say 80% of what I wanted to say. And do you know what happened? I kid you not. 10 white people got up and walked out of the room in the first 10 minutes. 10 people, literally, just because I had the audacity to give them a drop of honesty about the racial history of this country. And I didn't even say a fraction of what I really wanted to say. So I learned a long time ago, I learned very quickly that America really ain't ready for the truth. White folks, I know they got the Black Lives Matter movement and all that, and I just ended up getting grumpy. I get so grumpy that some of y'all think I've been called everything. You're a white supremacist, you're a Trump supporter, boys, you're not down for the cause. No, it's because I know that all this is a bunch of bull crap. I saw Black Lives Matter. That's an LGBT initiative to dismantle the nuclear family. That ain't got nothing to do with you black people. What are you talking about? People ain't ready to hear that. So I don't say it. Some of it I just don't say. I say, okay, I get it. You're doing third grader level blackness, and maybe some of us are in high school or in college. Some of us can see through it. Some of us are still learning. So I'm going to let you go through that process. I'm not going to hurt your feelings because sometimes I can hit people over the head and not be trying to do that. So here's the point. So this is my reference point. When I see Nick Cannon, who's on shows like America, what's that stupid show, America's Best Singer, or what's that show he's on? He hosts one of those corny shows. He's the host of what is that show? It's in America's Got Talent. I can't remember. It's like I saw a picture of him next to like a guy wearing like a Mickey Mouse costume or something. I don't remember what it was, right? And I think Terry Crews has that job now. Somebody tell me what's the name of that show that he was on. Please remind me because I can't remember the name. The Masked Singer. The Masked Singer. Yeah, I have to swear. I swear to God, I have not seen one episode of The Masked Singer. Doesn't mean I'm not making fun of you if you watch it. I'm not dissing. I'm just saying, you know, I just haven't. I got better things to do. So Nick Cannon, who was hosting shows like The Masked Singer, is now trying to have a very serious racial conversation with Professor Griff. So what I saw in that conversation was I saw a guy who's really trying to find himself. And I think that there should be room. You know, you wear costumes like this. This is not the cost. This is not how you show up ready for the, you know, to fight for racial justice. This is they started this on the plantation. This is some I don't know what this is, but this ain't it. Okay. So, but it's fine. Like, go make your money. Like, go be in Hollywood. Go be, you know, go do that. Right. That's good for you. Good for you. But then the problem is that when it comes to blackness and you're finding your blackness, there have been many cases of celebrities who, for lack of a better phrase, have conversations publicly that are above their pay grade. They want to be black because it's cool. They want to be black because it's trendy. Their white bosses have gained a tolerance for allowing them to wear their dashikis and afros and wear their natural hair to work. So they really start feeling like extra black. So they really start feeling like, okay, I'm part of the struggle now, right? And because they're famous and because they're like big shots and stuff, they're the alphas. They're used to this idea that they're supposed to be at the front of the line. Well, why is that? Well, because I have, because if you're a celebrity, you have 10 million Instagram followers. Well, of course you're supposed to be at the front of the line, or your voice is naturally amplified. The problem, though, is that sometimes they're just not ready for battle. They're not about that life. They're not really ready to strip it all down and lose it all for what they believe in. And so when I saw Nick trying to interview Professor Griff, I said, you kind of went from level 0 to level 10 with that interview. You probably should have started off with something a little bit softer and more digestible to your bosses, because not only is Griff going to tell you the truth about race in America, he's going to tell you about that group of people that shall remain nameless who likes to go around banning people's YouTube channels because you mentioned their names. I'm not going to say their names, but y'all know who I'm talking about. So Griff takes it there. And again, because they're vibing, they're flowing, and because Griff is probably speaking a great element of truth in this conversation, Cannon is in agreement with that. Well, I mean, that's fine if you're a black man who don't need your job. If you don't care if the Masked Singer is going to fire you and not let you stand next to the guy dressed like a frog anymore, then that's okay. If you don't ever need to do another episode of Wildin' Out because you got $100 million in the bank and you just don't give a fuck, then great, go for it, dude. Like, that's awesome, man. Welcome to the party, bro. Like, seriously. But if you're not ready, then you don't need to act like you're ready, because there's going to be consequences that will come a knocking for that type of conversation. So Nick, similar to Snoop Dogg went through the same thing, where people get carried away, they jump to the front of the line, and then next thing they find out they're not equipped for battle. It's no different from having a war. I watch a lot of war documentaries. War documentaries are very interesting to me because it teaches me about strategy. It teaches me about survival. It teaches me about the absolute worst that human beings can do to each other. And it teaches me about the necessity of being willing to fight and die for your freedom, because if you're not able to fight and die for your freedom and also be very strategic in protecting that freedom and prepared and intelligent and alert and focused and conscious about defending that freedom, then you will become a slave. They will come and they will take out your whole family. They will destroy everything you love because you're too weak to defend it. Like that's why I watched war documentaries. And when I see a celebrity, and I'm not criticizing Nick Cannon when I say this, but this is what I saw when I saw him talking to Griff, and then I saw the backlash, and then I saw his response to the backlash, which was Anything but firm, anything but firm. I thought about it. I imagine the soldier saying, I really want to go to war. I really want to fight. I can't wait to fight. I want to be a Marine. I want to wear the fancy suit. I want to put have the sword on my side. I want to wear the nice military outfit, because when I wear the soldier's uniform, I'm gonna get all the girls. And I also want to be a captain or a corporal or something. I want to be something important in the military because I'm all about the status, all about the clout. But then they get on that ship, and they're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean on their way to a battlefield where 30% of the people around you are going to die, and they get squeamish and say, no, please turn the ship around. I need to go back home. Well, it's too late now. It's too late. You've identified yourself as a person who's ready for battle, which means that you've identified yourself as someone who's willing to put it all on the line. And the thing about that is no one will necessarily fault you if you don't stand out there and take all those punches. But people will have an issue if you make yourself the commander of the platoon and then you chicken out when the heat gets hot. I got a lot of veterans in here. I already know it. If you're a veteran, shout yourselves out, because I'm going to tell you the truth. I respect all veterans. Anybody who's ever served the country in military, I respect you, and I give the middle finger to anybody who does not. And the reason I do that is partly because my daddy was a soldier. He fought in Vietnam, and also because most people I know are not willing to put their lives on the line for anything. A lot of people I know are scared. They won't even put their job on the line, let alone put your life on the line. So I know that if you look at the history of this world, any group of people that has ever achieved freedom usually had to die for it. Any group of people that has ever defended freedom had to strategize to protect that freedom and also had to die for it. And so when I see Black folks that are scared to even open their mouths because they don't want to lose a couple $1 million on their next movie deal, those people are not the ones who are going to lead us to any sort of freedom, anything that resembles freedom. So it doesn't mean they can't play a role. If there's a battle, you have a lot of jobs you can do. You had the soldiers, you had the commanders, you had the journalists, you had the nurses, you had the people back at home that bought the war bonds, you had the people that would cheer for the soldiers when they came home and made sure that they were taken care of in the hospitals. Like, you had a lot of jobs. You deliver food to the soldiers. But if you're going to be the commander, you have to be the one willing to put it on the line. And so when I saw Nick having these really hardcore conversations about Blackness, and Snoop Dogg, remember when he called Gayle King a doghead bitch? I saw a little bit of ego there. I saw a little bit of guys getting carried away with the hype of it all and the coolness of it all. And when it's not cool anymore, I saw them kind of fold and buckle. I saw Snoop, no disrespect to Snoop. I know Snoop is a friend of Ice Cube's, and y'all know I love Ice Cube. Ice Cube, let me just say, from talking to Cube, that is a firm guy. That guy, his last song, he literally said, fuck your cancel culture because you can't cancel a soldier. I said, there you go. I get you. I get that. Right. But also remember, too, Ice Cube is built differently, not just as a person from these guys, but also economically, he's built differently. I don't see Ice Cube as a guy who needs a job. I see Ice Cube as a guy who owns a basketball league. I don't see Ice Cube as a guy who's trying to get a part in your movie. I see Ice Cube as a guy who's making the movie. There's a difference in those roles. And that's why economic independence is so important when you're talking about fighting for liberation as a Black person. It is very difficult. It is going to be almost impossible for you to stand and look the white man eye to eye and really tell him about himself and talk to him, give him some real shit about his bullshit, and then turn around and beg him for a job. Are you kidding me? I cannot be your equal if I am also your subordinate. I cannot stand taller than you if I am bending down on my knees trying to tickle your balls in hopes that you will give me a job. I cannot act like I can compete with you when I'm trying to be a backup singer. You can't be Beyonce and Solange at the same time. You can't do it. You can't be first place and second place. You can't be alpha and beta at the same time. And a lot of our Black males are raised to be betas. They're raised to chase around and hope for. So I hope he gives me an opportunity. I just want you to give me a job. I'm not here to job shame, but I am here to say that if you have it inside of you to man up and you feel like this ain't right, like this don't make no sense, The reason that you feel like it doesn't make any sense is because it doesn't. It doesn't. And so when I saw Nick Cannon folding, when I saw Nick Cannon apologizing, over-apologizing, I mean, he didn't apologize once. Same thing with Snoop. They didn't apologize one time. They apologized like 5 times. And every time I turn around, I see something with Nick, and no disrespect to you, Nick, man, but this is driving me crazy. How come I'm seeing headlines like the one like that Tiffany had? Did anybody else see that? Where they're forming this alliance? And let me see if I can find the it's like it was literally, I mean, people were laughing about this alliance that they formed with the community that shall have to remain nameless because because they like to ban YouTube channels. So let me show you. And then I see T is here. T, I'm gonna bring you in. I can't turn my video on, T, but I'm gonna bring you in. I'll have T on video so y'all can look at T. He's a better looking man than me anyway. Let me see if I can find this. Hold on. Let me see. Is this the? Here we go. Check this out. So him and Tiffany Haddish got this alliance. And then I see him bringing on his Cannon's Class YouTube channel. He's interviewing, these rabbis and all these other people who are literally openly dissing people like Louis Farrakhan. I mean, dissing people like Louis Farrakhan, and you're doing nothing about that. That made me very uncomfortable. And it's not a coincidence that shortly thereafter you saw this headline. And I'm going to show you this, and then we're going to bring T in. Here's the next headline I saw right after this alliance was announced with Tiffany Haddish. I have mixed vibes on Tiffany, and I'm gonna tell you why in a little bit. But here we go. Here's the latest headline I saw. Nick Cannon rejoins Wildin' Out as host after getting fired for anti-Semitism. Right. So right after Nick does all these little alliances and has all these little guests that are dissing black people right in front of his face and all this other stuff and apologizing over and over again, or like apologizing and then re-apologizing and then just apologizing one more time to make sure you heard the first one. Then suddenly he gets his job back. And that just hurt my feelings. That disappointed me. So I'm going to bring T in. T, here you go, brother. I'll bring you on screen. I can't turn my video on. I'm having some Wi-Fi issues, so I don't want to lose my connection. How you doing today, T?
Hey, man, I'm doing excellent, man. I'm just about as fired up as you are on this topic, though.
Yeah, man. Well, you know what? I've said a few things, and I don't mean to be harsh on Nick, but I think it's very important that we have these honest conversations. So honesty is the best policy. So what I'm gonna do is hand the floor over to you after I ask everybody real quick. If you could, please hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. There's my Instagram, The Real Boyce Watkins, in case you want to follow me on Instagram. We have real conversations there. I believe in black intelligence, and I also believe in honesty and freedom of speech. So if that's your thing too, then follow me on the gram. And so T, give me your take on what you saw happen with Nick Cannon. Let's start with that key question: is Nick Cannon buck broken?
Oh, absolutely. He was actually made an example of because Nick Cannon, he's very iconic. He brings a lot of controversial black people on this show to talk about, black empowerment. He had Kanye, he had Umar. He had a lot of black empowerment people on his channel. But the thing is this is the problem with black people working for white people and not having their own. When you talk about black empowerment, you have to talk about black empowerment in the confines of how they allow you to talk about it. Therefore, it's a certain level that you can go to. Yes, okay, fine. You want to talk about white supremacy? Go ahead. But when you talk about those other white people, which I don't even want to name because they, take people off air on YouTube, then that's a problem. If you notice on Nick Cannon's show, where he had Professor Griff on there, when they said that white people were not savages and humans, that wasn't the comment that got him in trouble. The comment that got him in trouble was when he said that black people are the real Jews. That's the comment that got in trouble. That's the comment that had him read books on Jewish history. A black man who's done nothing to Jews, who had no participation in the Holocaust. In fact, any African American, none of us had no participation in the Holocaust. In fact, we were over there fighting in World War II a lot with America against the Nazi Germany. So the fact to make black people into somehow we're closet anti-Semites is frustrating to me, because what that does is it stifles real criticism. And the thing in America, and you know, this goes along with the whole cancel culture. Man, we cannot have serious conversations in this country. You know, Farrakhan, if we want to have a serious conversation with the relationship with, let's say, the blacks and the Jews, it can't just go one way, where the Jews are victims and then the black people have to do whatever they can to coddle them. When there is history where black people, let's be honest, we don't control our media. We don't control our media. We don't even control our music. Some other race is controlling the music. Some other group is controlling the music. To call that group out, which is a fact, and be labeled anti-Semitic and anti-Semite for doing so, that is intellectual dishonest. And when you censor people like that, what that does is that causes other people to look more into that group and start asking questions. So yeah, this is what happened to Nick Cannon. He poked the bear of the wrong group. And they told him, hey, you need to read some books about us. You need to re-educate yourself about our history. And then go post on social media in front of your people and educate them about our history. And Nick Cannon does that. And it's kind of hard for me to take him serious. You know, I don't even take him serious anymore if he's talking about white supremacy. Because, man, you just got slapped down like that. So don't act like you're just this big, tough man when you can just get slapped down like that and apologize. And now you are back to talking in the confines of whatever your employer wants you to talk about, because you can't get too black anymore. So yeah, it's very embarrassing what happened to Nick Cannon. And I don't know, Dr. Boyce, did you see when P. Diddy offered Nick Cannon to come to his platform?
I do remember seeing that. What about that?
Yeah, and that's what worries me too. Why did Nick Cannon take that deal? P. Diddy said, "Come over here, Nick Cannon. Come to my platform. It's black owned. You can say whatever you want." To me, it's almost like Nick Cannon got this. Well, the white man's ice is colder, so therefore I'm going to do whatever I can to get back in his good shoes instead of going to my own people, taking my own creative talent to my own people and building with them my own community. Instead, I want to use my talent with the other community where they can police it, but at least I'm getting a little bit more money, but I can't really build how I want to. So that to me is problematic. And man, I cannot take Nick Cannon seriously anymore because of this action. And even Dr. Boyce, black media, they were silent on this. Like nobody came to Nick Cannon's defense. It's just insane. And I'm not trying to put no political spin on it, but you know, even it doesn't matter if it was the black left or right. But let's say Nick Cannon says something about white Democrats or something. Then you'll see the conservatives hit him. Let's say you will see the black left hit him. Let's say he says something about black conservatives. Then you'll see the right hit him. But when he says something about this group, it's just like the black media, they were silent, didn't have his back. Why didn't they talk about white supremacy? Why didn't they say this is white supremacy, silencing a black man that is empowering and speaking up for his people? They said nothing because they are ruled by the exact same people that squashed Nick Cannon. That's why they're not saying anything. That's why there's no articles. It's almost if they just turn their back away in fear, and then we're supposed to take them seriously when they're telling us to stand up and fight against white supremacy, when you could just get smashed that easily and you won't say anything out of fear. Go ahead.
Well, the key idea is that they don't have any power, nor do they have any courage. And power and courage are two different things, right? You need courage to use your power. And I would rather be a courageous person with no power than a powerful person with no courage. And so effectively, you're right. I mean, part of this, I'm gonna tell you why I believe that Nick might not have, taken the Diddy offer, because we don't know the details of that offer, right? But we maybe the white man's ice ain't colder, but we know his money's longer. And so, I don't know how much money you make from stupid shows like The Masked Singer, where you're standing next to people dressed like cartoon characters or whatever that stuff is, which honestly, as a 40-something-year-old black man, I'm not, that's just not the job I want to do. I don't care how much money there is involved. I would do that. The only time I would stand next to a frog is for my kids, like for like a birthday surprise or something. I would do anything for my kids, but I wouldn't do this to make a living, because I kind of think that there's something interesting about that, and it's historically degrading. Remember, if you read books like Black Labor, White Wealth, Dr. Claude Anderson actually refers to the fact that Black people were handsomely rewarded during slavery if they could make a white man laugh, or if you defended white people. Like there's a history to this. This is not new. This didn't just happen. And it actually, I'm gonna read a little bit about. There's an article written by a lady named Just Annette. That's the name she goes by. But this is on Medium, and she defines buck breaking. And I'm gonna define buck breaking for you all, so you can kind of contextualize this and understand why it was so important for them to go after Nick. And I'm gonna throw Snoop Dogg in this category too, in order to control the rest of you. It wasn't just about those two. It was about everybody else, squashing the rebellion through example. So what is buck breaking? Well, according to this article by Just Annette, she says, mainly utilized by slave owners in the Caribbean, buck breaking was used against male slaves who were defiant. The process involved the slave owner forcing the enslaved man to lower his pants and bend over a tree stump to ensure that his buttocks were propped up in the air. The enslaved man would then be flogged severely. This would weaken him so that he would not be able to resist the rape that followed. The white slave owner would then proceed to rape the slave several times. This form of punishment was worsened by the fact that it could be done in full view of all the other enslaved people, including the slave's family and friends. And in addition to being sexually violated, the slave would also be publicly humiliated. This public punishment would instill fear in other slaves and thus prevent any rebellion. Enslaved men who were victims of this vile punishment often ran away from plantations or killed themselves as they were unable to deal with the humiliation that they had suffered. It was often too difficult for them to integrate back into society that had watched them being emasculated in front of their wife, children, and friends. Buck breaking as a form of punishment grew amongst slave owners in the Caribbean. White men were able to travel from plantation to plantation, raping male slaves. The punishment became so widely implemented that sex farms developed from this practice. These sex farms allowed multiple slave owners to gang rape male slaves as punishment for any supposed wrongdoing they committed. The massive popularity of this practice suggests that buck breaking may have been utilized as an outlet for gay slave owners to act out their sexual desires on men without attracting the stigma associated with being gay. Male rape is a taboo. So anyway, there's more to it. She talks more about this. This article is by a sister named Just Annette. I'm not going to keep reading because there's more that she says here. But it sounds to me, T, like this buck breaking thing, this idea of taking the biggest, strongest slave, the leader, right? It doesn't matter if you go and you buck break the subordinate or the triple beta male. But when you go after the man who claims to be the alpha and you break him down in front of everybody, then that's going to have a broad effect. Like that fear is going to spread like coronavirus. What do you think? T, can you hear me? Uh-oh, T froze. Looks like T is frozen. So maybe if he comes back, we'll go ahead and finish. So T, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Am I still frozen?
No, not anymore. Go ahead.
I don't know what happened. Yeah, no, and I totally agree. And I'm so glad you brought up Snoop Dogg because Snoop Dogg does have a tough persona. He does come off as a guy who goes in on people. I mean, you saw how strong he went on Donald Trump. He even made a video of shooting him in the head and F Donald Trump. But you are so right. When it came to Gayle King, and he tried to go after the feminist perspective as far as accusing all men of rape. They are guilty until proven innocent. And he tried to come out and defend Kobe, and they made that man apologize 3 times. And then he went on Jada Picker's Red Table, apologizing again. Not one time bringing up, it's one thing to apologize. If I was going to apologize in Snoop case, I apologize for calling her a funky bee. I was emotional at the time, but I don't take back the sentiment. She was still wrong for trying to paint Kobe Bryant as a rapist. And I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm going to stand hard on that. The fact that the conversation didn't even shift there. It was Snoop Dogg attacking all women. So what that did is that set a precedent for black men that if you are accused, don't defend. You cannot defend yourself, or we're going to make an example of you like Snoop Dogg. And even when you look at T.I.'s defense video of his accuser, if you notice, he had to keep repeatedly saying women should come out and feel comfortable and be heard. And everyone understands that, but the fact he had to keep repeating that, because he understands that if he doesn't say that, then it's almost as if he is victim shaming, like he's speaking too hard on a victim. Because me personally, if someone is lying on me, I'm going to come hard against that person. I don't know if I can kind of pad them and then defend myself at the same time and pad them while my career is being destroyed when I know I'm telling the truth and that person is being elevated. Not saying T.I. is lying and telling the truth, but it's just the simple fact that he has to keep saying that women need to feel comfortable explaining their story while trying to defend themselves. It shows that he understands that there's a greater power out there that is going to slam him. And yes, this is what's happening to black men. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm saying, what it does is it really comes back. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what, the best decision I ever made in my life was to become an expert on economics and finance, because everything comes back to the money. You take the money out of the equation, then all the conversations change. Like, remember Kanye West had that song, "Just wait till I get my money right." And that's true. You think about this. Give me a yes or no in the chat. If you know what I'm saying. A lot of y'all will be having completely different conversations if your money was right. Like T.I. got his show canceled. Maybe that played a part in the pressure he felt to respond in a certain way. What if T.I. had $100 million in the bank and didn't care what anybody thought? What if Nick Cannon was, economically independent, owned businesses, was making plenty of money, knew he'd take an economic hit, but was going to be okay? I don't think he would have had the same conversation. If Snoop Dogg wasn't, dependent on his little business deals, one thing that people don't understand about money is that all money ain't good money. You never get taught that. You just get taught to sell everything for money. And a lot of people end up selling their soul for money. They teach you money over everything. Well, yeah, you can go pursue money, but if you taking unhealthy money, you taking that white money, you taking money from a white supremacist, and you're going to have to be a white supremacist too. And how many black people, if you want to know one reason why black people are not progressing, the reason you can't fight white supremacy is because many of you are getting your bills paid by white supremacists. How are you going to fight somebody that's paying your damn bills? How in the world do you think you can fight white supremacy when you're begging for a job at a white supremacist corporation after you just attended a white supremacist university, after going through a white supremacist school system and consuming white supremacist media your whole life? That don't even make no damn sense. That's ridiculous. So what you got to do is understand that this whole game is rigged from the jump. And it's preparing you. Like I was saying, I was telling people, I said they ain't planning to give you no reparations for slavery, but they're always going to give you preparations for slavery, because you've been getting prepared to be a slave since you were little. They gave you preparations for slavery when they sent you to that public school and those white teachers who taught you how wonderful George Washington was, right? They were giving you preparations for slavery every time you turn on BET, owned by a big white company that's feeding you a bunch of nonsense about what it means to be black. They're giving you preparations for slavery when you go to that big white university and you go $100,000 in debt with student loans that you can never repay. They're giving you preparations for slavery when you go begging that white man's business for a job, when you need to be creating businesses of your own. So you're getting preparations for slavery, but you can't fight for reparations for slavery when you have been fully indoctrinated in your preparations for slavery. So that's it, period. T, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. And I'm so glad you brought up Ice Cube, because the thing is, because Ice Cube is a self-made man and he owns his own businesses and makes his own money, he got nobody to apologize to. You can't pressure him. You can't cancel him. Like who are you going to go to? Who's boss? Who is his boss? Who can you complain to and boycott and pull advertisements from to take Ice Cube down? You can't. This is why Ice Cube can keep talking and everyone else is just going to sit in the sidelines and bark and call him names. That's all they're going to do, is call him names to try to psychologically get us to not listen to Ice Cube. But no, Ice Cube is a free man. Minister Louis Farrakhan is also a free man. That's why he doesn't have to apologize to nobody. And they don't like black men like that. That's why Farrakhan is banned on social media. He will never get an interview on television. Yet these same people say that they love black people. They want to elevate black people. But then our black leaders who really have our back and who are free is not allowed to get on the media and talk to our people. They have to be censored like Donald Trump. It's like basically they have no access to speak to the people. And Trump is not black, but I bring Trump into this too. Trump had his own money. That's why he could say whatever he want in the election campaign, do whatever he wanted, be as brash as he want, because you can't destroy he's his own boss. You can't destroy him. And this is what black people have to understand. And let me ask you this, bro, Dr. Boyce Watkins, and get your opinion on this. If you notice black media, let's say like BET, they get offered, like say for example, Viacom, to buy out their company. And then once they buy out BET, they put their own black installed CEO on there. And then they tell that black person what to say to their own people. And the funny thing is would you ever see a Hispanic publication or a Jewish publication, whatever, sit there and sell their propaganda or their news network, their means to talk to their own community, to a black person? I've never seen that. They will not do that because they understand that this is how we communicate with our people. This is the propaganda. This is how you socially control them. Therefore, we cannot sell to you. You never see that, but it just seems like with Black, the Root, TV One, all these organizations, some high-powered white person controls it, so they have to talk in the confines of whatever they say, and it just kind of just nullifies what Black people need, and that's the problem. We have to stop doing that.
Well, what it is that we really admire white people, like we really do, like we really are white supremacists. Like we really think that to be a white supremacist you have to be white, and that's not true. White supremacy doesn't really work if only white people do it. Then it becomes just like a football game. The Super Bowl. When the Super Bowl happens, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers probably believe that they're superior to the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Chiefs haven't bought into that. So they might prove, they might go out and say, we want to prove you wrong. So this idea of white supremacy works in America not because white people have bought into it, but because Black people have bought into it. I'm sure at least 5 times a day I run into a white man who thinks he's better than me. But do you think I care? No. Do I stop and say, how dare you? Wait, what? I'm not going to let you leave until you tell me I'm a wonderful person. No, I don't give a shit. And so it's kind of, so the fact that you have millions of Black people that'll stop everything that we're doing, stop in our tracks and give all of our attention to the people who hate us the most. That right there is a huge flaw. I mean, in cryptocurrency, there's a coin called the basic attention token. And that this coin literally is valued based on how much attention you give to certain things, certain ads or whatever, right? That's literally the currency. Is attention is a currency. So when you're giving the white supremacists all your attention, like you're sitting around here, you ain't getting nothing done because you're so concerned that the Proud Boys are going to come and kill everybody in your family, even though they ain't killed nobody that I know of. Then guess what? You're giving them currency. And so you wonder why white people are rich is because you're giving them all the currency. You're giving them your wealth. You're giving them all your money. You're giving them all your attention. You're giving them all your best ideas. You're giving them your best, your smartest employees. You're donating. You donate to white supremacy more than you give to the United Negro College Fund. Like y'all, all of us. And the thing is, it's such a rope-a-dope that you don't even know that it's happening because your preparations for slavery have been so deep. They didn't start doing this last week. They didn't start this in 1972. They started this 400 years ago. So you ain't nothing but the latest chapter in a very, very bad book. I'll let you speak.
You know what? I want to comment on that because you made a great point as far as, if a white person, let's say a white person from a rural town in Texas says the N-word and it's caught on video, that can rise up the entire African-American base for us to come at them, fire them, get them to apologize. And see, this is the problem right here. Because most of our media, the propaganda that shapes and molds Black people, is in disguise as Black media networks, but it's not, is controlled by white people. I think they have an interest of having us hyper focus on them solely, hyper focus on how they think about us. Because it doesn't matter, you read the Root, the Essence, or any of these Black media publications. It's just hyper focus on what white people think, and that, in essence, takes us away from Black economics, takes us away from coming together, building institutions, takes the Black man and woman away from having good conversations or beneficial conversations on restoring the family structure. Instead, we are too focused on what white people are doing and how they change their minds to love us. That is a problem. We are not focusing on ourselves. We're not coming together. It's crazy. The only time you get this type of conversation is if you come to independent Black media networks like yours. Then you can say whatever you want and you talk about issues that is missing from the Black community. You will have a Black liberal, a Black independent, and a Black conservative all sit down at one table and discuss how can we all come together to help the Black community. You don't see that in Black media outlets. You see, if it's a Black conservative media outlet, they're going to say, hate all the Black liberals. If it's a Black liberal conservative outlet, they're going to say, hate all the Black conservatives. And they never come together. They're just fighting each other. And this is the problem. Black people have to start owning their own media, owning their own businesses, so they can talk about the important issues affecting their community without white people saying, no, you can't talk about that. And if you do, you got to read a bunch of books like Nick Cannon, write essays about what you learned, and then we'll think about giving you your job back, which is ridiculous. Like, what are you, a child? Seriously.
Yeah, they had him looking like Bart Simpson in the classroom. You know, when they had Bart, they finished Bart and made him write the same word on the chalkboard over and over again. Yeah, it was very strange. Like this, like we're like almost like when you have oppressed groups of people, a lot of times the group in power will have what they call re-education camps, which are really just halls of propaganda. That's where they force you to accept their ideology. That's what the communists do. That's what they did after the Vietnam War. Things like that's what they do still to this day in North Korea and places like that. And basically, what we have to kind of understand is that to some extent, Black people have been born in a big concentration camp, a big re-education camp. We don't control the school system, which right there, that's why Black people should be educating our own kids. If we took over, if we just did a revolution in the school system and the education system, meaning leave the school system altogether, educate your own kids, and then also create an army, like literally 1 million children that are just fully prepared to build their own businesses in the next generation, that would do a lot to alleviate white supremacy. That would actually put Black people in a position to actually be competitive. And I want to share some with you, T. If everybody could hit the thumbs up button, share button, and subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. I'm speaking with Mr. Tariq Nasheed, and we started out talking about Nick Cannon, but really I want to bring this back to you because this is not a Nick Cannon bashing fest. We're not here to make the brother feel bad. I'm sure he's trying to make amends, and I wish him well in that endeavor. I have not yet been satisfied by what I have seen, but that does not mean he's unredeemable. I do not consider him to be an enemy of the Black community. But I'm going to share this on my screen, and I know it might be kind of small for some of you, but I'm gonna read it to you. And this is from Dr. Claude Anderson's book, Black Labor, White Wealth, which his books are all on powernomics.com. And he talks about how whites condition Blacks that they enslaved. So you have on the left what the goal was. On the right, you have the technique that was used to achieve the goal. Remember, this did not start yesterday. These conditioning processes are not coincidental. They're not by accident. They wouldn't be doing this if Nick Cannon were a white guy. So the goals of Blacks were, Blacks were to be taught discipline. And so the technique was endless, hard, tedious, dirty labor. That's where you get that whole thing where we love to work hard and we love to work hard for other people. We brag about how hard we work for other people. We never brag about how hard we work for ourselves. To be inferior to whites. Never see any Black people with any real power. Any Black people that have power are typically Black people that are appointed to simply pursue an agenda that's been given to them by somebody else. Know their place. They created the color line and Jim Crow. To be backward and childlike. This is where Nick Cannon fits in. Backward and childlike, where we take the man, make him into a little boy. It said planned ignorance and humiliation. So that's why your favorite rappers love to rap about how stupid they are. They brag about being ignorant. They brag about the fact that they can't spell their mama's name. And that's something that other black males want to emulate, when any real man knows that you can't hardly be a real man if you're a stupid man. So ladies, when you picking a man, pick a real man. Don't pick a stupid man, because stupid men get screwed. Stupid men can't win. Stupid men get duped. Stupid men get played. Stupid men turn into slaves. So you might have a handsome man who's a stupid man, but you might be marrying a super slave. So don't pick the super slaves. Pick the real men. So planned ignorance and humiliation. They'll humiliate you to reduce you from a man to a child. That's unfortunately what I saw happening with Nick and Snoop. Be fearful of the master. Physical and psychological deprivation. So they deprive you, make you feel pain, rewards and punishments. They train you like Pavlov's dog. It's a famous dog in psychology that they trained to salivate whenever the food came in the room. They deprive you to keep you in fear. And you saw even during the election, there was a lot of fear mongering to get black people to do certain things, because they know how you react when you're afraid. Place the master above himself. Denial of humanity and hope. Surrender totally. Religious humility and hopelessness. So if you listen to a lot of these Negro spirituals, like, oh, Lord Jesus, like a lot of these things, a lot of these songs, and I'm not making fun of anybody that goes to church. Some of you go to church and are very empowered people, so I'm not here to make fun of you. But if you listen carefully to the lyrics of a lot of the traditional Negro spirituals, and I dare even throw in a song like Lift Every Voice and Sing. I'm not dissing the song, but I want you to one day go listen to the lyrics of the song. The song is built on a type of religious humility, and whether it's not quite hopeless, but it's not really built on any sort of masculine aggression or any sort of ambition. It's built on sort of this idea that we've been hit by the bloody rod. We're all bleeding. We're all dying. We're all getting our ass kicked. But we have hope, because Jesus is going to one day make us better. And that's very different from having a proactive mindset where you actually see your own ability to empower your way out of the situation that you're in. See whites as superiors. Master's reward and punishment system. That's all over the place. When you behave, you get paid well. Some of your black leaders, most prominent black people on TV, are really the best white supremacists. That's why they get paid so well. So if they fall out of that role, as Nick did, then they take away money. So they have rewards and punishments based on your behavior. Also, to be totally dependent. Impoverishment, marginal existence. So this is one thing I will put on the back of both the Democrat and Republican parties, because a lot of these politicians that you're voting for, they actually reside over ashes. The communities that they supposedly represent are falling apart. Kids are dying. No resources are there. So they keep you impoverished, but then they'll turn around and say, well, vote for me because I'm your only hope. So you keep them totally dependent by keeping them impoverished. If they give you the empowerment of actually letting you have resources to make your own decisions and engage in self-determination, then guess what? They lose power because you don't need them anymore. And then the last part is be racially divided. That's destruction of the family and all racial unity. So if you recall, when Ice Cube stood up and said, he made a basic statement. He said, I want something good for black people. That's it. That's all he said. Why is it that the majority of the people attacking him were black people? You cannot explain that. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And then this destruction of the family, that goes back to Joe Biden's crime bill. And also is continued by the agenda of the Black Lives Matter organization, unfortunately, which is teaching you that you can kind of have a family as long as there's two mommies or two daddies. But that black man in the house, that heterosexual black male, he's worthless because he's filled with toxic masculinity. So T, what say you?
No, I totally agree with that whole list, and that's what's happening to us on a regular basis. And nature is very cruel. If you notice, the weakest animals will go extinct if they don't defend themselves. So for black people to be in the same situation 50 plus years shows that it's not going to change if our mindset don't change. If we keep allowing these same tactics to happen to us and we keep behaving predictably, we're going to be talking about the same thing for the next 50 years. Like you said before, the fact that Malcolm X has warned the black community, especially about politics, especially about putting our vote in one party or another and getting nothing out of it, and we're still having this exact same conversation in year 2021, shows that we are stagnant. At this point, this is managed ignorance. And to me, I put a lot of blame on the mainstream media, because what they're doing is they're hiring African Americans that we don't know of, that hasn't been vetted from the Black community, but it's talking on behalf of the Black community. Like Sunny Hostin on The View. How can she, on behalf of the Black community, tell Van Jones that you made a lot of people in the Black community distrust you for working with Donald Trump? How can she say that? Like, where are your credentials? You don't speak for me. You don't speak for me. I have no problem with Van Jones working with whoever's president to benefit Black people. Like, what does she want? Van Jones to sit down and complain like you, Sunny Hostin, for 4 years until you get a Democrat? But then when you get a Democrat, you sit back, relax, eat popcorn, and do nothing while the same Black people rot in jail? What about the Obama administration? Why do you put pressure? Like, it just makes no sense. These are stagnant things that keep Black people stagnant. And then what's also interesting, Ana Navarro, she's not even Black on The View. She is Puerto Rican. How can she go to Van Jones, a Black man, and say, why would you take a picture with Candace Owens? And it's just like, you're not even a part of our community. If I was Van Jones, I would say, wait a minute, I can take a picture with any Black person I very well choose, please. You don't have a right to tell me. You can't select a Black person that's outside, or you can't be from outside of our community selecting Black people that I can talk to, that I can work with. That doesn't make any sense. I can't do that to your community. So when you see that, and then we see other racial groups, whatever the race is, jumping on Black people like this, you can't deal with this Black person. You can't deal with this person at all. You have to fit in this narrow mindset. This is why we don't expand. And we have to change our mindset. And one of the first things is subscribing to this channel, recommending this channel, share it. It is designed to challenge people's minds. This is why Malcolm X grew to where he was. His intellect challenged your mind. He wasn't about protest. He was about building communities, Black people coming together economically, owning their own. And this is why they didn't like Malcolm X. This is why there wasn't some large white liberal group or even white conservative group coming after, giving Malcolm X or the Nation of Islam a lot of money, because they didn't like that independent mindset. That means you cannot be controlled.
Yeah, and you know what I would say is also, you know, T, to your point, you mentioned with Sunny Hostin and Van Jones, and I don't even, I mean, I probably disagree with at least 60% of the things I hear Van say, but I defend his right to be free, and I do learn from his perspective, even if I disagree. I think that there's a way. One thing I think that Black men have to really claim and own, and the women who love us and can claim in their own way as well, is really what I would define as masculine leadership. And masculine leadership kind of just says, yeah, you can keep screaming and hollering and be mad, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And you're going to be upset, but oh, well, then you work through that. You figure that out. Right. And I think that maybe a good reaction to a Sunny Hostin or whomever is to say, well, I understand why you would feel that way. But that's what I chose to do, because I'm a free American. I have a right to do what I want, and you have a right to do what you want. And that's what it is. Right. And I think that for Black people, that's one of the things I think can help us to obtain our freedom without necessarily allowing ourselves to be just kind of feeling overwhelmed by two things end up pissing us off. One is the resistance we get from white people who are serving their own agenda, which is pretty much what human beings do. Most normal human beings do that, except for super slaves. We're pretty extraordinary. We love serving other people's agenda. Like, we get out there, we do the whole Stacey Abrams. I saved the Democratic Party, master. I saved them, master. Right. And that's something that's not even human or normal or natural. It's nothing wrong with being a Democrat. I think it's fine. Like, we talk about a Stacey Abrams, like, I mean, God bless you for being a smart Black lady. But I think that the question I always ask is, what does that have to do with us? Like, if you go to Burger King and you're the employee of the month, and they give you extra burgers because you did such a good job behind the counter, if you ain't sharing some of that Burger King money, or if they didn't give you something that you can actually bring home to the family, then I don't really give a shit. I'm really wondering, what was in it for you and what makes you feel like somehow being Burger King Employee of the Month is the same as actually making a contribution to the Black community. So when I see Black people who maybe saved the Democratic Party, here we are saving y'all again. For what? I mean, you're bragging about the fact that you might be a sucker. Like you're bragging about the fact that you are letting somebody use you. What pride comes from that? And it's not to really. And when I say it, I know people think that I'm dissing Stacey Abrams. I don't really care. I really hope Stacey gets the Nobel Prize. I really hope and pray that she gets the Nobel Prize, because the Nobel Prize literally means about as much to me as a pile of like frozen shit. Like literally, it means nothing to me. That is an award that they created, that somehow they convinced you that it's important. And sometimes some of y'all think it's a big deal because you've always wanted them to like you and to accept you. I'm past that point. And I think if we all get past that point and just focus on us, turn inward, right? Focus on us. Let Stacey go get her Nobel Prize. Let her get 1,000 of them and focus on us. I think that's a good way for us to win. What do you think, T?
No, and I totally agree. And you got to think about it. When humans go out and they catch animals and put them in the zoo, they train them for a circus or something, and they give them small treats, and they pat the animal on the back, and the animal gets happy in eating the treats. But what the animal doesn't understand is you're still encaged. You've been taken out of your natural habitat for our entertainment, for our use, for us to make money off of you. So there's really no benefit for you. It's a benefit for us. We're the ones getting the revenue. We're just using you. You are just for entertainment for us. And sadly, that's what happens with these awards. Like you said with Stacey Abrams, I mean, it's almost it's like they're like giving her treats. Like, okay, let's go ahead and give her this Nobel Prize or whatever the award they're giving her, and that's it. It means nothing. But like it changed nothing for Black people. I mean, and even the media getting happy about Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin being the first Black man to be Secretary of Defense. That's great. But now I'm gonna celebrate a Black man bombing other, and let's use liberal terms, people of color. So now it's gonna be a Black man in charge of the people of Afghanistan, killing civilians, drone striking, being pro-war. But I'm supposed to ignore all that. And say, yes, it's a Black man doing it. Yes, it's a Black man. That's what's happening to us. It's like we're not even looking at any substance. When the Obama administration went into Libya was a very prosperous African country, very prosperous. And in fact, I believe Libya, Muammar Gaddafi, he was trying to get Africa to be separated from the United States and be independent. So the fact that under the Obama administration, they went in and they destroyed Libya over some ridiculous things about him being evil to his people, whatever. They never show us any excuse, but it's a Black man destroying another independent Black country. And the man's from Africa, and there was no type of peace negotiations. But because it's a Black man, we just give it an excuse. To be honest, I don't care if you put a Black person in front of me. Like you might also put a white person in front of me also, because I don't care. I don't see a difference. If there's no substance, I don't care. So yeah, I think we really got to break free of that. Otherwise, they're just going to keep, giving us these little cookies, and we're just going to keep celebrating it like wild animals while still being in bondage.
Well, what it reminds me of. And by the way, everybody, before I forget, please hit the thumbs up button if you could. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when we go live. Also, if you want to get text alerts periodically when we go live, text the word Boyce to 31996. Right there on that ticker on the bottom of the screen, there's a phone number that you can text the word Boyce to, and you'll be on the text list. So feel free to do that. Also, you can go to the allblackagenda.com, where we actually have resources free or very cheap that you can use for your family to implement your Black agenda, because we're not sitting behind with the rest of these backward Negroes. We're trying to move forward. So we got the forward movers and the backward movers. And I say that those of us who want to move forward need to move forward. We can't sit around waiting for other people. We'll catch them in the next generation. How about that? So what, to your point about the treats and everything else, one thought that came to mind, T, was actually, and this is historic. a lot of people don't know. For example, you see a lot of black folks that will say that they, that they're so proud that a black person won like an Academy Award or whatever. Like, oh, so-and-so got an Oscar, or so-and-so was the first black person to get an Academy Award or a Grammy or whatever. And people don't know, actually, I read a book called How the Jews Invented Hollywood. And it wasn't anti-Semitic, none of that. It was just literally a very inspirational story about how the community came together to create, to do something that I would love for black people to do, which is they created an independent industry that gave them power because they were rejected everywhere they went. They couldn't get their kids into other people's schools, so they built their own schools. They couldn't get jobs working for other people, so they created their own companies. And they took advantage of the film industry, which is one thing I want black people to do. But anyway, in this book, one thing that they talked about was in the 1940s, I think, when the studio executives got tired of the actors and actresses asking for more money, when the directors were asking for pay raises, they said, we don't want to give them actual money. We don't want to give them anything of real value. So let's create an award, and we're going to call it an Academy Award, and we're going to give them these Academy Awards, and we're going to feed their ego instead of feeding their bank account. That way we can keep the money, and they get their much needed self-esteem or their recognition, and everybody's happy. And so when you talk about black people and you look at the way we're dealt with politically, the first type of political capital they're going to give you is not going to be financial capital. They're not going to give you the financial capital unless you demand it. Instead, they're going to give you symbolic capital. They're going to give you things that are going to feed your self-esteem because you show up needy, you show up begging, you show up weak, you show up with low self-esteem. So what they do is they say, we're going to give you your self-esteem because we're going to paint Black Lives Matter on the street. So now suddenly, as white people, we are your gods. We are going to acknowledge that your life matters. And now your life matters because we said that it matters, not because you decided that it mattered before you got here, but because we decided it matters. It now matters. We have decreed it. Now it is true. And then next thing you know, Negroes are celebrating on Facebook and Instagram because somebody painted Black Lives Matter on the street. And then what they will do is they won't actually give you the money. They won't give you the reparations. They'll just give you something symbolic, or instead of actually giving you real money, they'll put Harriet Tubman's face on the money. Right. So I'm not going to give you any money, but I'll put your face on my money and I'm going to keep it in my pocket. So that's the deal. I'm going to put the money in my pocket and we're going to put your face on it. And you're going to get your self-esteem. I'm going to get real assets. I'm going to get real estate and businesses and stocks and bonds and ownership. And you get self-esteem because you are a pathetic bastard who doesn't believe in himself. And the last thing I'll say on this, T, and then I'm going to let you you can make a final thought before we bounce out, is, you have to be really careful when you talk about, we have to be really delicate about not being disrespectful to the people that are getting these positions, these awards, like the Stacey Abramses or the Lloyd Austins and people like that, right? Don't get me wrong. I think that what you said was entirely true, entirely appropriate. Obama bombing Libya. I mean, what the fuck? Like, would you be happy? Like, would you be happy if somebody bombed your house as long as they're black? Like, that's all. It's almost like, well, it can't be bad because a black person did it. So that's an easy formula to fool you, right? If I want to do some horrible shit to somebody, all I got to do is let a black person do it, and I'll get the whole support of the entire black community because everybody's going along with it because you have no self-esteem and no common sense. So one thing that's unfortunate about these sorts of things and these little symbolic celebrations that you have to watch out for is that when you are running around saying Black history was made this month because, this black person got promoted for a job, or Black history was made this month because a black person got elected, or Black history is made this month because this black person was appointed. You don't understand what you're doing is you are implicitly making white people into your gods. You're implicitly giving white people the ability to make black history. Like, you're literally, like, they can literally decide, okay, you know what? We're going to make black history this month. We run the company, so we're going to appoint a black person to a higher position, and that'll be black history. And so what you have to be careful about is that when you get caught in that horrific line of thinking, you can't win. You cannot win. You're trying to win a game in which you are a character in a movie that is written by somebody else. The cartoon character, Homer Simpson, can never fight the people that created The Simpsons, right? Homer Simpson is the character in the show. He can never outlive the people who created the show, right? And so you are Homer Simpson in this game of white supremacy. They create you. They create your self-perception. They create your opportunities. They create your educational process. They create whether they get to decide whether or not you're going to feel good about yourself or feel bad about yourself, because you love coming home and saying, look, mama, I made it. A white man gave me a fancy job today. So what I'm saying to you is that you have to understand the game and step outside that box and not allow anybody to be your economic god. Because again, I cannot ever in any way claim that I can be equal to you, superior to you, or independent of you if I'm stepping up begging for an opportunity to simply be inferior to you. Like if I'm showing up begging you for a job, I can never be your equal. I can never compete with you. I can't go on the football field with Tom Brady and beat him if I'm spending the whole game trying to get his goddamn autograph. So, T, your final thoughts.
No, and I totally agree with you on that. And this is why they don't allow black people to own anything, or if we do, especially if it's of huge influence, they try to buy it out like they've done with a lot of our black media publications. And this is even true with the NBA and the NFL. How is it that this is a predominantly black men play in these sports leagues, and there's not a black owner on any of these teams? Like I'm talking about whole stop, a black man owning all of it. You know, because they understand that if they allow black people to own any of these teams and they creates a domino effect, that's going to build economic power. And then that economic power is going to have what Dr. Boyce Watkins says, F you money. I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me what agenda to push on my people. You can't do that. We're going to set the agenda. Okay. You have no say. And this is what black people have to get in. We have to get into this mindset. I don't know if you ever seen that Malcolm X movie made by Spike Lee, but one of the most interesting things and one of what I loved about it is he had a scene where he was walking into a building and this white lady stopped him. And she was like, hey, you know, I like what you guys are doing and I would love to join you guys and help you out. And I love Malcolm X. He told her, no, that's okay. We got this. We're going to handle it ourselves. But I thanks for your help, and walked away. Even though the white lady was kind and she wanted to join in and help out, Malcolm X still said no, because he would rather build with his own people. He didn't need the help of white people and their guidance to come in and influence them simply because she's white. He has enough love and respect for his own people to build with them. And that's what black people have got to start doing. We need to have respect for our own people to build with them. We don't need to be rewarded by white people and cheer, because all that tells, especially if we're going in the political field, all that tells them is that all these people want is treats. That's all they want is treats. They don't want no agenda. I forget that black lady who said, I don't want no black agenda. Let's just get rid of Trump. That right there sets us back. That sets us back. We cannot be saying that. We have to all want an agenda, and we need to build with each other. And that's pretty much all I got to say, man.
Yeah, well, you know, I think you're 100% correct. And I hope that everybody can hear this conversation in a way where we can agree with some things and disagree with others. Chances are, if you're a critical thinker, you probably agree with, you might have agreed with 70% or more of the conversation. I don't want you to agree with 100% of the conversation, because I need you to also think for yourself. I need you to have your ideas and not just simply accept our ideas. And that's the goal of the platform, right? We want to have a space for free ideas. I want to encourage you to explore all possibilities, take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And at the end of the day, figure out what freedom looks like to you. Because, you know, the way the conclusion I would make on Nick Cannon, Snoop Dogg, and everything else is that this is not the way free black people behave. This is not freedom. You know, this like T.I. said the other day, he said, this ain't that. This ain't that. so this is not freedom. Like, freedom is not when you are buckling and folding and apologizing, even when you didn't do anything wrong. It's one thing if you did something that was flat out egregious, undeniably egregious, right? You don't committed a crime, you don't hurt somebody, you know, then yeah, you owe somebody an apology. But when you're simply apologizing because you spoke out of turn, or you apologizing because you just got bitch slapped in front of the world, then there's something wrong with that. That is that people are not stupid. They're going to see that, and so I would just say, at the end of the day, that's why all of you, if you can give me a yes in the chat, remember, I always circle it back to you guys who are listening. It's very important that all of your children learn how to start a business, or at least have some entrepreneurial desire by the age of 12, because they're gonna probably need a plan B in case the heat gets hot, right? In case, you need a disaster preparedness plan if you're Black in this country. Disaster preparedness is when you get fired on your day off because you don't start talking shit to massa, or you went and watched Roots last night, and now you mad at the boss, and you done spoke out of turn, and they try to get you out of there, and suddenly all your excellent employee evaluations become very negative because you've been identified as a radical Black person or a Black identity extremist. You have to have an exit plan. You have to have something very basic. That is the ability to pay your bills without having to beg your oppressor to do it for you. That's all you got to do. You ain't got to be rich. Just have enough where you can survive and you're going to be okay. So prepare your children for that. So don't give them preparations for slavery. Give them preparations for freedom, because if you get ready and you stay ready, you ain't going to have to go and hurry up and try to get ready when the shit goes down, because it's going to go down. These battles are not over. And I think it's less about sort of fighting against those who support white supremacy as much as it is about fighting the white supremacists within us. I don't know about you, T, but I don't get up every day and have white people standing over me, trying to put me in jail because I read a book. Right? I can read as many books as we have advantages our great grandparents did not have. We can read as much as we want. They'll never stop us from reading. We're allowed to congregate as much as we want. They don't stop us from congregating. We're allowed to go start businesses as much as we want. They're not going to stop us from doing it. We can invest in the stock market. They're not going to stop. We can show up. We show up with the money. We can buy real estate anywhere we want. So a lot of the demon, the hurdle is not out there. The hurdle is inside of you. It's in here. Right. So we got to fight that battle, and we will win that war. The question is, how soon is it going to be? So thank you very much, T. I'm going to show everybody T's social media information. Please follow this brother because he's very smart. And I think that he is somebody that you should listen to. And also feel free. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button, share button, and subscribe button before you get out of here. And also we have different channels and stuff like that. The Black Boss channel, that's the one I want to show you, because we have a channel where only Black men are speaking on that channel. I know T goes on there sometimes, Jeff Lightsey Jr., and a lot of other smart Black men. And I really just think we need to start hearing from different perspectives, because we need to inject masculine leadership in our community again, because we lost a lot of that after Biden's crime bill. We're recovering right now, right? So you need to let the men speak next to the women. The women are going to speak for sure, and we need the men speaking with them so that we can actually go in here and know when it's time to go punch somebody in the nuts and get something done. So God bless everybody. Love you. Thank you for listening. And thanks a lot, T, man. It's great to see you, brother. All right. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce.